Okay, I think I did all of the stuff. And yes, we have made it to Twitch affiliate. We're big league. Well, no, we're more minor leagues now. We were playing T-ball before, now we're in the minor leagues, which is progress. And hey, welcome to the stream, Ben. Was planning on doing this earlier, but then weather happened, and we had to start clearing, a foot worth of snow off the driveway and cleaning off the cars. So that's always fun. But we're here now, and I think we should head over to the theater room. Now, there isn't really much. January is always kind of like the barren wasteland when it comes to new releases. Either it's garbage or you may get some respite, which we'll talk about in a bit, but hold on, I'm just realized I don't need one thing anymore. There we go. Okay. Now, the first new release kind of is something that's been being pushed back for over a year, I want to say. The new Hotel Transylvania came out, and I think they expected somebody to care, although they did take it out of they were planning on putting it in theaters, and then just gave it to Amazon. So I guess they figured nobody was really going to care if it came out or not. But, the premise, such as it is that Drac is thinking of retiring. No longer played by Adam Sandler. After 3 movies, Adam Sandler finally decided he didn't want any more part in this or something. Yeah, Adam Sandler's gone, though. He's not here anymore. Instead, it's some sound-alike, and Drac is thinking of retiring with his love interest, the granddaughter of Abraham Van Helsing that was introduced in the last movie. But he gets cold feet because he's worried about what Johnny, Andy Samberg's character, the redhead, is planning on doing with the hotel once he and Mavis are in charge. And so, through some shenaniganery, eventually Johnny becomes a monster. He becomes some dragon thing, and the main monster crew that we've been dealing with, the Invisible Man, Dracula, Wolfman, Frankenstein, the Mummy, Blob, they're all turned into normal things. So Drac, Wolfman, Invisible Man, Mummy, and Wolfman all become human, and then Blobby just turns into a Jell-O mold. Kind of, yeah. It's like if Adam Sandler was replaced with a look-alike in a Happy Madison production, essentially. Although, I'll say this much, the Hotel Transylvania movies are much better written than anything by Happy Madison. And so after everybody's switched from being monster to human or human to monster, then it turns out that they have to go all the way down to the mystical Amazon. So it's fitting that it went to Prime Video, I guess, in order to get some relic in order to change everybody back. And I don't think... Does anybody really care, ultimately? Because genuinely, I really lost interest after the second one, which I was never all that into Hotel Transylvania as a series. The first movie was decent. Sadly, no, anything that fun. The Amazon thing was a last-minute decision because this was intended for theaters, but then COVID happened and Sony kept pushing back the release date until the point where they just gave up and decided to give this to Amazon. Say, look, this ain't coming out in theaters. Do you want it? In any case, yeah, the first movie was fine. It's not one of my favorite Sony Pictures movies or anything, but it's not terrible. It's an interesting gimmick, and it's getting Tartakovsky with the character design and animation, leading the animation team. So that had something. But the more the series went on, the less involved Gendy seemed to be in the creative process, and the more it just seemed like cashing in on the fact that it got popular. And especially by the third movie, I was just like, okay, yeah, we're done now. I didn't even expect a fourth movie. The fact that this exists at all kind of fascinates me, because I didn't even... How well did that third movie do? Let's see. Hotel Transylvania 3 made $528 million at the box office on a 70 some odd million dollar budget. Where the heck it... Okay, so it opened to 40... Okay, here we go. Hotel Transylvania 3 made $160 million in America, which is still like double their production price, and made $361 million worldwide. And $32 million from China, $26 million from Mexico. Brazil, Venezuela are the big ones from... Well, that's divided by Latin America. Okay. UK, 25 million. France and Germany had about 20 million. 15 million from Spain. So, yeah, a lot of the gross came from America. And I guess Canada, because I don't see Canada listed as part of the foreign box office. So Canada must be included in domestic then. So yeah, between the US and Canada, yeah, exactly. He's a great animator. His Clone Wars is amazing. His new show, his show Primal is fantastic. Dexter's Lab is fantastic. The bits I saw of Symbiotic Titan are great. One of the first times you saw twerking in animation, and it was on Cartoon Network, no less. And he's got a new project. He's got some new thing brewing that I saw Saberspark mention in his 2022 preview video. Unicorn Warriors Eternal for Cartoon Network. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Same thing happened with Teen Titans. Same thing happened with so many really good shows. Young Justice, too, as well. Just absolutely insane how much control marketing has, and marketing and sales have over animated shows. But yeah, there really isn't much to say about this movie. Toys merchandising, where the real money from the cartoon is made. I need that as a sound alert. Now that I actually have sound alerts, I need to see if I can get that as a sound alert. At any rate, I think that's it. I think that's all I can say about this movie. There really isn't. Yeah, I think the only show where I actually got merch from it is Pokemon, and that's more than just a show. That's an entire franchise in and of itself. But yeah, I think we're done talking about Hotel Transylvania because there's actually more interesting things to talk about than the movie itself. The only thing I will... that's another one I need to have. Oh god, I can get... I wonder if I can get a bunch of MST3K quotes on the soundboard. I'll have to look into that. But... what was I saying? Oh, yeah. The only thing this really had going for it is Gendy is really into that squash and stretch kind of rubbery animation. You saw bits of that in the Popeye movie he was trying to make. There's some of that here, but once again, like, not only does... I was surprised Andy Samberg came back because it sounded like he was being played by a sound-alike, too. Like, why did all these people... I mean, good that these people got paid, but what was the point? Where was the point? Meanwhile, over to something with a point, the aforementioned Respite, the Oasis in the Desert of January. Scream 2022, or Scream 5, however you want to call it. This is the first Scream movie made without the involvement of Wes Craven, who sadly passed away after the fourth Scream movie. And I gotta say, it's weird to say that this one's my favorite Scream movie, but I want to say this is my favorite Scream movie. I binged through the series in the lead up to this, and since two of them are on Peacock, one of them is on Starz, and one of them is on Showtime. Weird how they split it up like that, but... Oh, Scary Movie? Yeah, Scary... That was the thing. You watched the original Scream. If you ever watched Scary Movie 1 first, then you basically watched Scream. That first Scary Movie, aside from the Blair Witch part that came out of with Sherry O'Terry's character, aside from that, and the bit at the end where they reference Usual Suspects, the Scary Movie 1 is pretty much beat for beat, almost line for line in some cases, just Scream. It is wild how close Scary Movie and Scream are in terms of you know, the plot beats and the pacing and even some of the bit, you know, even how some of the things that, you know, scenes end and bits happen. It's almost like a trace job that the Wayans brothers did, and then they just changed little bits here and there to make it more hyperbolic and farcical. But yeah, that first Scream movie is good. Pure 90s cheese. And I think the problem with me is it's kind of ruined by the fact that I cannot stand Jamie Kennedy. Jamie Kennedy as a personality is someone who I've never liked except for in one instance, and I can't remember what it was. There's like one thing Jamie Kennedy did that I liked, and I think it was apparently he made a song that was a tribute to Bob Saget while he was alive. This was like right around the time Malibu's Most Wanted was getting made, and he made a hip-hop song with an actual hip-hop artist that was a tribute to Bob Saget as a stand-up comedian, and basically doing essentially a song version of that Wayne Brady sketch from Chappelle's Show. Yeah, the Bob Saget, we lost Bob Saget sadly, and today is actually Betty White's 100th birthday, officially. But I think the common consensus around my circles has been like, we're calling it 100. You know, she was like 3 weeks off from 100. We're calling it 100. We're going to round up in this case. But yeah, this was her official 100th birthday, and this is also the 91st birthday. This day, the 17th of January, is the birthday of James Earl Jones, who I did not realize shared a birthday with Betty White. They were a decade apart, just about. But yeah, he's 91 today and still kicking, which is good because he's a joy. I love James Earl Jones. But yeah, Jamie Kennedy did one thing I liked, and the only reason I liked it is because of Bob Saget. So, like, I've never liked Jamie Kennedy. I've never liked him in Malibu's Most Wanted. I never liked him. I never saw the Screams movie. Yeah. If we lose, although we're getting close. I mean, that's the thing is, all the people that we grew up with, who were already in like their 40s and 50s when we were growing up, are now starting to hit their 80s and 90s, and that means they're hitting the dying age, which is unfortunate. So yeah, we're gonna start seeing a lot more people that we knew growing up start to pass. Unhappily Ever After in 1995. Oh, that show. He was on that knockoff show, the wannabe Married with Children on the WB, with Bobcat Goldthwait as the talking bunny, the stuffed bunny rabbit. He apparently was on that show early on in his career. Apparently he's in Three Kings, which, I mean, how bad do you... I mean, you can't be that bad in a movie directed by David O. Russell. Oof, David O. Russell. I was thinking Soderbergh for some reason, but not David O. Russell. Max Keeble's Big Move. And yeah, that point gets to the Jamie Kennedy Experiment. Dinotopia, Quest for the Ruby Sunstone, Son of the Mask. So yeah, he really is... And I'm not even saying he's a bad person, just that I've never liked... I'm sorry. Oh my god, he was in a Christian legal drama about Roe v. Wade. Jesus Christ. That's how sad his career is at this point, is Jamie Kennedy is in bad Christian movies. Anyway, back to good movies. The first Scream, yeah, it's good. It's iconic. It holds up. Like, even as whether you watch it as Scary Movie or whether you watch it as the original Scream, it holds up for the most part. Actually, Scream's better than Scary Movie because there's really, really tasteless gay jokes in, like, just throughout Scary Movie. It's just like, hey, he's gay. Isn't that funny? No, not at this point. Like, yeah. Gay people exist, the Wayans brothers. Their existence isn't a joke. It's just a fact. The other thing is... I lost my train of thought. I don't know if there was another thing. Yeah, Charlie Sheen is nuts, but he didn't start showing up in the Scary Movie franchise until the third one. The first two were the Wayans brothers, which when the Zucker brothers took over that Charlie Sheen showed up. But by that point, it was already off the rails and terrible. Anyway, back to Scream. So yeah, I watched Scream, basically Scary Movie, but better. And I watched Scream 2, which I loved, actually, because I think it made some major improvements story-wise and filmmaking-wise over the first Scream. I think Wes Craven took what was good about the first Scream and improved it in the second Scream. Third Scream came around and it was so off the rails that everyone was like, what the fuck did we just watch? And he had to come back with a fourth Scream in the mid-2000s, or I guess the late 2000s? It may have been like 2010, 2011 or so. And at that point, it was more about remakes and reboots, because that's the thing, is Scream as a franchise has always been a bit, like one of the Resident Evil games. This is just a common poster trope for movie marketing. It features everybody in the cast, so everybody gets their face featured on the poster, and then there's usually the most iconic or sometimes the leading cast member will be the biggest one in the back. And this kind of Photoshop deal is like the standard when it comes to Hollywood poster making for some reason. I think it's because that way everybody gets featured on the poster, and that way, everybody's agents gets, they probably get paid something like that. So it's not artistic or anything, but it shows you who all's in the movie. It's purely marketing. But yeah, the franchise has been about meta commentary on the horror film genre, and especially on films in general. And so the first one was Wes Craven taking what he did in Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy's New Nightmare, or I think it's just New Nightmare. But that one where he went meta with it, and he took what he did there and made it its own thing, so that you get a universe where in the universe the horror movies that everybody loves exists, and then they use all of the meta knowledge and philosophy and thoughts behind the filmmaking and the storytelling of the horror genre in order to tell a slasher movie. So it's kind of a comedy in a way, in that it's self-referential as hell, and so you've got a slasher film, a 90s slasher film with with the killer, and then it becomes about itself. And so in 2, it expanded upon that by having it be about sequels, but not having the meta commentary be the main goal. It still had to be about this. 2 focused a lot on the characters, specifically Sydney and the PTSD she suffered. That's the thing, is this franchise, up until about this movie, was mainly about Sydney's PTSD and how she's been dealing with it. First with trying to move on with her life and going to college, only for it to come back and haunt her again. So she decides to run away. In the third movie, she decides to run away and live out in the wilderness by herself until it starts coming back, and she decides to stop avoiding it altogether and become a victim's advocate. In the fourth, and specifically writing her own memoir about the experiences in the fourth movie. Here, she's just back to living her own life, far away from Woodson? Something like that. Woodsboro, California. I didn't realize it was California this whole time. I thought it was like Illinois or something, in a tie-in to Nightmare on Elm Street. But Woodsboro, California. The first 4 movies were mainly about Sydney and her dealing with PTSD. And then you throw in things like, oh, we're making a sequel, so let's talk about sequels. We're making a third movie, so let's talk about the end of the trilogy. Yeah, I think that's the thing. You got the Michael Bay treatment, which kind of murdered... Those Platinum Dunes remakes essentially killed basically almost every horror franchise they touched. And if they didn't kill it, then nothing good ever came after them. Texas Chainsaw, I think, is the only one that survived and is making more entries. And their entries are even worse than the Platinum Dunes ones. Especially, there's a Leatherface Texas Chainsaw movie coming directly to Netflix later this year. Maybe even this month. I forget when I talked about it. But yeah, the Scream one managed to not get as off the rails, because I think Wes had way more creative control by that point. I think when he started the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, but he kind of lost control, and I think the studio maintained the rights to it, so they went on without him, and it went completely off the rails. Whereas I think Scream, Craven knew that he wanted to keep control over the franchise, so he didn't let it be turned into Nightmare on Elm Street. But yeah, you got the third movie talking about trilogies and conclusions, ironically going into 4, where they talk about reboots and remakes. And franchising. And that, we get a little bit of that here. But that's the thing, the meta commentary, what we have now is, after the events of Scream 4, enough time has passed that things have really changed for the last remaining survivors of the Woodsboro massacre from the first movie. And I'll say this much. David Arquette's character Dewey is no longer the sheriff like he was in the fourth movie. In fact, he's a lot more grizzled and angry in this one, because once again, he and Gale were on the rocks. Their relationship was on the rocks again, and so they split up and then reunited in this movie. Courtney Cox returns as Gale Weathers, who has since moved to New York to basically do Good Morning America, but the unlicensed version of it for the movie. The good value Good Morning America. The copyright non-infringing Good Morning America. And Sydney is just off living her life. She is not, she's not doing any book tours or anything like that. She's married with kids. She is happily living her life. And so we focus on a new cast of characters, the lead of which is Samantha Carpenter. There's a big twist about her, but I won't say what, because it's revealed early on, but it's still kind of like a spoiler and a big reveal as the movie goes on. But she is played by... I forget her name. What is... Melissa Barrera. And she is... a Mexican singer and actress who began with a lot of telenovelas. She was just in the Heights movie. Who did she play? Oh, she played the main love interest in Vanessa in the Heights. So that's who this is. This is the girl who played Vanessa in the Heights. And so Sam is working at a bowling alley out in Modesto. They hint very early on that she's been dealing with addiction, and she takes medication for mental health issues. And the opening of the movie is the same take on the killer calls the girl at home and comes to attack her. This time, though, the girl survives. The first twist in the movie, which is the opening scene. So, and she becomes a plot point for the rest of the movie, and so I feel like I can't talk about the rest of the movie without spoiling the fact that the girl they try to kill in the beginning actually survives. And that girl is Samantha's sister Tara, played by Jenna Ortega, who is best known for Stuck in the Middle on the Disney Channel. And she also voices a character on Elena of Avalor for Disney. Oh, and she's also one of the voices in Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous for Netflix. She was in the Babysitter sequel for Netflix too. She's doing a bunch of Netflix movies. She plays Ellie Alves in that Netflix show You. And basically, yeah, she's just a young up-and-comer, and she's getting a lot of roles. Not all of them great, but I mean, you get what you can get. Anyway, she got to take part in that home movie recreation of The Princess Bride as Princess Buttercup. That's sweet. And she's voicing Wednesday Addams in the Netflix MGM I think animated series about where it's the Addams family but focused through the lens of Wednesday. Once again, good for her. Anyway, Sam Sam gets told about her sister getting attacked and comes back to Woodsboro to check on her. and that's when the Scream event, the traditional slasher Scream events occur. The biggest change this time around is the movie is actually written and directed by the guys who did the horror movie Ready or Not, which I really enjoyed. That one was where this girl is marrying into a rich family, and in order to celebrate essentially their engagement, she takes part in a game night, and the game turns out to be randomly chosen as hide and seek, and then it turns out the family is actually trying to kill her. Really fun horrors, really fun old school 80s slasher horror B-movie style. These guys are big B horror movie fans, and they bring that, but with better production value, same writing, better quality effects on the gore, and better camera quality. So if you like B movie, oh, absolutely. At least with Ready or Not works as a movie title, but more than The Bye-Bye Man. Also, who names their villain The Bye-Bye Man? Oh god, that piece of trash. I always try to forget it exists. It exists. Ugh. Anyway, back to Scream 2022. Wait, Mom? Which one was Mama? I know. Are you talking about Ma, the one with Octavia Spencer, or is there something I missed? Anyway, let me see if I can get my train of thought back. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the Scream events, the traditional slasher events occur, and this time around, because it's the same guys from Ready or Not, the gore and the kills in this movie are like art. They really are. You get to see some really excellent kills all throughout this movie, and they really did put a lot. I mean, the one thing I will say is they kind of lean in too much on the fake out jump scare. I think they run that bit into the ground after a while, but overall, I think the movie is just wonderful. Honestly, the other thing is, okay, yeah, I managed to miss that one, thankfully. But this time around, the meta commentary is a bit like Thor, where it's remakes and franchises, but this time around there's something called a requel, and apparently that's slang term that I've missed as a film nerd, where it's a reboot sequel, where they reboot the franchise, but they still set it within the same universe and bring back the legacy cast. So things like the Star Wars sequel trilogy, or Matrix Resurrections, or Ghostbusters Afterlife, those things are deemed as requels, where they're rebooting a franchise, kind of kickstarting it again with some new energy, but it's still technically a sequel to the original. And so that's the main meta commentary going on here. And the other part that I really kind of didn't expect them to go for was toxic fandoms. Part of the meta commentary, and specifically leading into the killer's motives, is it ties into toxic fandoms. And in a way, Scream has always kind of been a dig at toxic fandoms, because Orin writes, yeah. Well, not ignore the past movies, just the most recent movie at that point. Hey, let's ignore the fact that last movie happened, okay? You chuds seem to not like that, and we want your money. Jesus. God forbid Star Wars be controversial and actually try to discuss interesting topics. Anyway, the toxic fandoms. So I guess, because I think that's the thing is, the killers in the movie always kind of seem tied into the idea of fandoms and being big fans of something, hence, what's your favorite scary movie? And I think just throughout the whole thing is that kind of toxicity within a fandom is always kind of there, was always kind of there in the background, and here they're actually acknowledging it. And I just realized that now, while talking about it and thinking about it. And so to actually discuss, actually talk about, because that's the thing is, plenty of fans can hate an entry in a franchise that they love and criticize it without being violent or angry, or, well, not angry, they can be angry, but hateful and vindictive. But it is the subset of fans that are so unhealthily obsessed with a property that a slight such as a bad movie or something that didn't meet their expectations is to be treated as a threat to their very selves. It is such a weird, and I wonder how long that's existed, but I know the internet helped to blow it out of proportion, especially places like 4chan, like Reddit, and various forums online. Once those people started to collect, it only got worse. So, I admire that the filmmakers were even willing to discuss toxicity in a fandom, because they have. That's the thing is they have. Once they reveal who the killers are, they're revealed to be the most toxic of fans. While they literally made the Randy character, the Jamie Kennedy character, be the niece of Randy. Since they introduced his sister in the third movie, and they basically had that sister marry off screen and have 2 kids, and so Randy's niece is the new Randy. I'll say this much: I like the girl who played her. I like the girl in this movie more than I ever liked Jamie Kennedy. And that girl is Jasmine Savoy Brown. And she's best known currently as the voice and mocap for the Tinkerer in Spider-Man Miles Morales. And I won't give away who that is. That's a big plot spoiler in the game, but I'll just say she plays that character. But she's also played several voices, a lot of movies without Wikipedia entries, a couple of TV episodes. So she's up and coming a bit, but yeah, she is fantastic in this movie as sort of the know-it-all nerd character. But she's also like a stoner, chilled out, laid back character. So she will go off on these. She'll go off about movies, but then she'll just chill back, relax, be chill, not care. She's I liked her a lot. But I'm trying to think I think that's the thing is that I really like. I think what made me like this is that this is the first Scream where I genuinely enjoyed the main cast I was given. I'm not saying they're better than any of the other, teen casts that they had. I mean, I really liked Hayden Panettiere in the last movie, and even Emma Roberts got to have some fun. But I really liked the cast here. I thought everybody was good. Apparently, that's Dennis Quaid's son playing Sam's boyfriend. Pictured he is to the left of Sydney on the poster. Apparently, that's Dennis Quaid's son. And he's good. He is solid in the movie. He's a bit like He's a bit like the guy who plays Iceman in the X-Men Fox movies. He kind of reminds me of that kid. But yeah, he's good in this, and even the rest of the cast, people I didn't know, Dylan Minnette, who was from 13 Reasons Why, he's the lead kid in that. He's in this as a character. Marley Shelton, she's the sheriff. She's carrying over her role from Scream 4. Sonia Ben-Amar. Sonia Ben-Amar. Not familiar with her. Apparently she's a singer, and this is her first real movie. Well, she did all right for her first movie. And, who else? Mason Gooding. Oh my god, Cuba Gooding's son is in this. So, the nerd character I mentioned, the one played by Jasmine Savoy Brown, she's a twin. She's a fraternal twin with the brother being played by Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son. And he is fantastic. Apparently he was also in Booksmart and Love, Victor. So he's getting some decent roles. Oh no, he's in the show Love, Victor. I'm thinking of Love, Simon, the actual movie. But he's one of the main roles in Love, Victor over on Hulu. And he was, his first movie role was in the Olivia Wilde movie Booksmart a few years back. But, he's also over on, Ballers. He was in a recurring role on Ballers, way back in 2018. But he's good in this. I liked him and his character. And Mikey Madison, who was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Quentin Tarantino, she was all right. I liked her in this. But she's also been in Addams Family and the 2019 one, and a couple of other smaller movies. The 2018 that actually got released in 2020. The Netflix movie Monster, which is actually just an independent film that got picked up by them. She plays a character in that. So she's been in things here and there. Once again, these are all up and coming actors, or in some cases, the kids of famous actors. But they're all good. I genuinely liked all of them and their characters for the most part, and I had a good time with this. The thing is, I describe it as this. Scream 2022 hit all of my happy buttons in my brain. All of the buttons in my brain that says the brain is now happy, Scream 2022 hit all of those buttons when I watched it. And I can't begrudge it for that. It's not to the point where any criticism against it is gonna be like, no, you can't criticize this movie. No. You can criticize the hell out of this movie, and people have been, and so this has been kind of splitting audiences. Some were into it like I was, and then some people found it to be one of the worst in the franchise. And once again, that's the whole point, is that this is trying to make a Scream movie after so long, especially after the passing of Wes Craven, is going to be hard. And I think, honestly, this is the best they could do. And I mean that less in the sense of we can't do any better than this garbage. It's more having a couple of slasher fans try and tackle this franchise. We're probably going to get, in trying to make a Scream movie this far after the fact, if we're going to have a Scream movie, I'd rather have something of this quality than anything like the Platinum Dunes remakes or the the kind of crap that they've been doing to Leatherface or anything, the kind of stuff that ends up straight to Netflix. This movie, at least, I had a good time watching. And this is honestly one of the best January movies I've ever gotten to watch. Because there's so much garbage that comes out in January that when you get an actually good movie that wasn't a carryover from the last year's awards push and nomination period, when it's not one of those movies, it's usually garbage, that nobody wanted to see. Nobody expected to see. Originally, Morbius was going to be coming out this month, but they thought, oh, wait, maybe we can actually put it in a real movie month, like April. Oy vey. But, yeah, Scream is one of the best. Scream for 2022 is one of the best movies I saw in January. And having binged through the whole series, I would put 5 at the top, personally. Oh, yeah, or the kind of crap you get from the Asylum. Yeah. So, yeah, we could get so much worse from people trying to keep the franchise going. I kind of hope they let it stay dead here and never touch it again until, long after the fact, after everybody involved in the original movie is dead. 30 years in the future, after pretty much everybody involved in the original movie is dead, they come back and they retackle it, but as a remake after the fact, after everybody is dead, after, then make it about film nerdism and fanboyism for classic cinema, quote unquote. That would be the only thing I could see this franchise doing. Otherwise, let it die. Just keep it dead here. We don't need any more after this. But we'll see. Eesh. Yeah, exactly. Was there anything else I wanted to mention about this? I think that's it. Because that's the only thing that came out really recently. There's stuff on Netflix, but I'm so far behind on everything that I need to try and keep up with Netflix's release schedule, which is insane. So I'm going to have to take a look over there at some point. But, that's right. I wanted to do this way back when Spider-Man No Way Home first came out. And I never got the chance to do it, so we're doing it now. We're ranking the MCU, including the TV shows. I made that decision last second, because originally I just ranked the movies. But I can throw the TV shows in there as we come across them. So, I've been a massive MCU fan probably since the Avengers. I was into it early on. I liked Iron Man. Wasn't that into Iron Man 2. Kind of dug Thor. Kind of dug Captain America. Avengers hooked its claws into me and made me an MCU fan. And ever since, I haven't been able to escape. No matter how bad the series has gone, no matter how bad no matter what missteps the franchise has made, I stuck it out because I love it so damn much. And it actually helped me to become more of a fan of the Marvel comics, because the movies will reference something and introduce a character that I will then go and seek out. Sadly, I can't afford a Marvel Unlimited subscription at the moment, but I would love to get back into that again. So yeah, we are going to start ranking them. This is an alphabetical order. I'm actually going to do it in order of release. So, MCU release order. I want to see if I can do it from memory, since I just rewatched everything. So, first up, we have the original Iron Man. And for the original Iron Man, did I put the notes here? I don't think I put the notes here. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to have to parse this out. Okay. So for the original Iron Man, that is in A tier. It used to be an S tier, but upon rewatching it, I started to see more of the flaws in it. There are some flaws in it. It's not as perfect as I thought it was, and it's still good. It's still a very good action movie, and if you're gonna kick off a cinematic universe, this is probably the best way to kick it off. This is probably the easiest point of entry for people to get in. We follow that up with The Incredible Hulk, which I put down in C tier. Incredible Hulk is in the C tier for me, mainly because I'll say this much: nothing is in D tier. Think of it this way: 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, 5 star, and then the halves will be on the leftmost side. Like if it's 4.5 stars, it'll be to the furthest to the left here, and then the full stars will be more to the right. But Incredible Hulk is a 2-star movie for me, mainly because I think it gets a lot of things right. But it is such a hot mess of a movie that I can't really rate it much higher than a 2. It is such a... Well, I gave this one a 2.5. It's like complete middle of the road in terms of the MCU, in terms of that level of quality. Oh yeah, Edward Norton is not a bad Hulk. Mark Ruffalo has really embraced the role. Edward Norton was not a bad Hulk in this movie. I think my problems were more that Liv Tyler was a bit miscast. I think she was a bad fit for that character. And I feel like they struggled a bit more with how to do a good Hulk story, whereas Iron Man's origins are just basically, laid out for you. So next up, we got Iron Man 2. Where did I put Iron Man 2? Okay, Iron Man 2 is better than Hulk, but is up in B tier. Bit of a drop in quality from the first Iron Man. Here, they kind of rush the Demon in a Bottle subplot. I wish they had carried that over into more movies and just kept that as a running subplot and then ended it in like Iron Man 3 or something. Whiplash ultimately kind of leaves, he's better as a villain than Ironmonger, but he still ends up being a lame villain by the end. The recasting for Rhodey is weird, but that whole first phase had a bunch of weird stuff, mainly because they were still having to deal with Ike Perlmutter. Also, Iron Man 2 is the one that has Elon Musk hanging out with Tony Stark, supposedly trying to rub elbows with Tony Stark. And, there's a scene where Tony Stark talks to Elon Musk. It's already they were kissing his ass back in, 2013, I want to say? No, 2011. No, 2010. Ugh. Just the pits. Anyway. Iron Man 2. Also, the Black Widow stuff was kind of forced in there and didn't quite work. And I say this as somebody who has kind of been on this position since about this time, since right after the Avengers, I think. Scarlett Johansson was never good as Natasha. She never gave you the essence that she was a former Russian agent. She, as far as you know, she was from frickin' Southern California. Scarlett Johansson is a decent actress when she's not expected to play a character who's not from America. And all their explanations for trying to, the one time they try to make her speak Russian outside of that movie they just did. Yeah, it's a cameo. He's barely in the movie for more than a minute. I think he's in it for like 15 seconds and then just gone. But yeah, even in the Black Widow movie, she's the least interesting part of that movie. I prefer the new Black Widow, Florence Pugh, because at least she's attempting a Russian accent and trying to give you the appearance that, yes, the Black Widow agent, a former former Soviet spy, is actually from Russia and sounds like it. So yeah, she looked the part. I'll give her that. She just couldn't play the part, and nobody said, hey, ScarJo, can you at least try? We're asking, I think Whedon was the only one who tried to throw in Russian for her to speak, and even then, she still sounded like she was from Southern California. Just absolutely refuses to try and get into the character she's playing. Everybody else is doing it. Chris Evans did it. Robert Downey Jr. did it. Even Don Cheadle, settled in and got into his role as Rhodey. Almost everybody else in the MCU is down with playing their roles. Only Scarlett Johansson really seemed to just absolutely refuse to even budge on trying to be a decent portrayal of Natasha. And they play her up so much, like she was so important over the course of the franchise, and I just have to be like, fine, whatever. It's like them trying to make fetch happen. You can't make fetch happen. Stop trying to make fetch happen. I do too, and it sucks that he was kicked off by Perlmutter, and Perlmutter basically alluded to the fact that they could recast anybody and nobody would notice. People noticed! Don't think people forgot either. Racist old piece of shit. Anyway, for those who don't know, Ike Perlmutter is the current head of Marvel Entertainment, which is the overall company of Marvel, not Marvel Studios, which is directly under Disney. It didn't used to be, and then Ike Perlmutter wouldn't get out of the goddamn way, so Kevin Feige said, either he goes or I go. Exactly. And so when Kevin Feige told Disney that either he goes or I go, Disney said, okay then, you're coming with us. Ike, you go over there and keep being a piece of shit. We'll come over here and start making some good movies. And that's how we ended up with finally getting a Black Panther and a Captain Marvel movie. The whole reason Black Widow took so long, first off, was because Ike Perlmutter didn't think women could carry films. Lovely guy to be in charge of Marvel, isn't it? Just fantastic. Just who you want to be in charge of Marvel at this time. Anyway, yeah, Iron Man 2, B tier. Not terrible, but not great either. Just okay. Decent. Next up is Thor, and Thor is right behind Iron Man 2 in terms of quality. That first Thor movie, it's a bit shaky. Shaky legs. Not from the beginning, nobody really knew how to deal with Thor until Taika Waititi came up and said, fuck it, 80s campy sci-fi movie. That's who Thor is now. So, I think Taika really helped Thor come into his own as a character. And in the first two movies, it's really, he struggles a whole bunch to really, I mean, Hemsworth isn't bad. It's just, nobody really knows quite what to do with Thor as a character. And Thor isn't bad, but it's not the kind of Marvel movie I'm going to come back and watch again and again. Anything below A tier is not going to be something I actively seek out and rewatch on a regular basis. But Loki's good. Sad misuse of Natalie Portman. I am so glad they convinced her to come back, and they're going to do the Jane Foster Thor arcs with her. Yeah, that was a weird bit, but I'm sure. But I think I'm interested to see how they handle it. Plus, Thor is part of the Guardians of the Galaxy for Volume 3, and that's going to be an interesting idea to work with. But for the first movie, Thor is I'll admit, I was one of those chuds who thought Natalie Portman was too good for superhero movies and and all of her talk of her not liking playing Jane Foster was her being a snob because she was in Star Wars. Then I realized how badly Jane Foster is written in those movies. And I just feel bad for Natalie Portman. And I'm really hopeful for Taika, because I think Taika's going to be the one to be like, oh, hey, Jane Foster can be written as an actually good character, and not as a MacGuffin, or just a rom-com starlet. So yeah, that first story is a bit of a mess, but it's overall good. We follow that up with Captain America, the First Avenger, which goes in A tier. Is that above or below Iron Man? Above Iron Man. Yeah, exactly. Padme did more than Jane, which says a lot for how they've written her character. How they've written Jane Foster's character up to this point. Jane Foster's character in the comics and in other media is such a compelling character, and I'm so glad they're finally gonna fix that. Finally gonna fix it with doing the Jane Thor arc. But where were Captain America, the First Avenger, is A tier, A plus baby. Love Captain America, the First Avenger. I didn't used to, and the more I rewatched it, especially after Winter Soldier came out, and I started going back and rewatching it in the rewatches for every time I want to kind of do this rundown, I just keep loving it. I love it more and more. It's not, once again, there's still some minor bits and pieces here that don't quite work. They rush a lot of stuff in the second act and into the third act. But overall, this origin for Captain America is excellent. Like, other than Iron Man, this would probably be the best intro to the MCU. But yeah, Captain America, First Avenger, nothing but good words to say about it for the most part. And then we end Phase 1 with the Avengers. S tier. It really is. It is delightfully 40s. Which is a good thing they got Joe Johnston for that, because who better to make a 40s era movie, a 40s era war superhero movie than, the guy who made the last time we made a 40s era World War II superhero movie. I'm talking about The Rocketeer, if that wasn't obvious. But yeah, despite the fact that the director is an utter and complete piece of shit. Funny I'm doing this today, because the director of 2 of these movies had a whole expose done about him, where he managed to make himself look worse. Oh, Joss. You finally fell off. You finally fell off your horse, and you can't. And it keeps kicking you when you try to get back on. Good. That horse can kick you all day long, and I won't get tired of it. Joss Whedon is a piece of shit, if that wasn't clear. The Storytime playthroughs, Storytime Rowan, advocates for the fact that Joss Whedon is in fact a piece of shit. Anyway, The Avengers is a damn near perfect superhero movie. Those statements can both be true. Its creator can be an absolute, utter, and complete piece of shit, and the Avengers can also be one of the most perfect superhero movies you could ever make. Thankfully, there's going to be improvements from less shitty directors in terms of personally speaking, but the Avengers did what. Yeah, exactly. Say what you... I did not enjoy the Snyder Cut by any means. I think it's an overlong, tedious, just drain to sit through. At least Zack Snyder's not a piece of shit. At least Zack Snyder isn't a racist, misogynistic piece of shit who mistreats his cast members. And that's been going on all the way back to the Buffy days, baby. So he's always like this, but he always passed himself off as the nice guy. You know, the feminist man. Oh, how sad and sadly duped we all, the nerds were back then. Ironically, when you go back and watch a lot of his stuff now, you can really see where the racism and misogyny came out in his work. Thankfully not in the Avengers. But yeah, I think that's all that really needs to be said. The Avengers, in terms of its pacing, in terms of its character use, in terms of trying to capture the essence of a superhero movie, The Avengers is the go-to example. It's the pro exemplar of this genre. There will be better, and by better people than Joss Whedon, but we'll get to those later. Now, this is going to be a controversy because right after, this was highly anticipated, right after the event of the Avengers. And I hated this goddamn movie so much. So many people praise Iron Man 3 and love it so much, and yet I am in my little boat for one, bobbing up and down in the water by myself without a paddle, screaming, Iron Man 3 is the worst in the trilogy. Now, none of that has to do with Robert Downey Jr., or Tony Stark, or the Extremis plotline, really. Although I will admit that the Extremis plotline is actually my least favorite part of it. No, not my least favorite part. There's something worse. But I read when this first came out, I actually read the comic that Extremis was introduced in, that whole arc, that whole miniseries. And that wasn't very good either. So Extremis was boring. Didn't really work well here either. I don't mind the twist with the Mandarin. I think that twist is actually better than what they were doing because they made a better version of the Mandarin. We'll talk about him later. But what Iron Man 3 did, I think the worst thing Iron Man 3 did was saddle us with that goddamn kid. Nothing against the actor. Dude's a full-grown adult now. He's probably living his best life, hopefully. I don't think he was a bad kid. I think he was a bad child actor. And I think Shane Black directed him poorly. And I think Shane Black gave him all but garbage to work with. The kid in Iron Man 3 kills this movie for me. Yeah, exactly. Because that's the thing. It didn't have to be a child. It didn't really even have to be anybody. Like, it could have just been a guy. Or maybe like a techie guy out in small town Tennessee or whatever. He can't get a hold of the high-tech stuff that Tony does because he's not near a big city. It could have been any number of things, but the kid was a pain. And for the longest time, I thought that he told Tony to just get over his PTSD, and then he did. It's not as egregious as that, but it's still not a good way of getting Tony out of his panic attack. He basically tells Tony, hey, why don't you build something? And Tony snaps out of his panic attack. Okay, problem solved. Great. Fantastic. Way to go, Shane Black. Just dynamite storytelling there. Ironically, he would do far worse with children and with storytelling in a franchise movie, but we're not talking about The Predator. We're talking about Iron Man 3. And yeah, Iron Man 3 is... It's the pits for me. That said, it's not a bad movie, it's just not a very good movie. Hence, this is the lowest in the list. We don't get anything down in the 1-star D tier. Nothing so far in the MCU has been full-on 1 star for me. Yeah, it was, the whole thing was weird. So, moving right along, keeping in the C tier, I went there. I don't care what anybody else says. I don't care how many, Thor the Dark World is considered the lowest point in the MCU. I still stand by Iron Man 3 being worse. I would sooner watch Thor the Dark World than it would ever go near Iron Man 3. That said, Thor the Dark World is a hot mess. Forgettable and boring, and which sucks because Christopher Eccleston is trying his goddamn best for this stupid role as the Dark Elf, as Malekith the Dark Elf. They have, once again, like I was saying with the first Thor, nobody has any goddamn idea what they're doing with this guy. And so they're trying to introduce more of the Infinity Stones over the course of this phase. They're trying to introduce, but at the same time, they're still doing this stupid rom-com-y stuff. Thor as a rom-com is a terrible idea, and I hate that that's how it started. I'm so glad we're away from that now. But Thor is more of a fantasy story, that's fine. It's not a very good fantasy story. Hey, Hillian. We're talking about Thor the Dark World, which I think is actually slightly better than Iron Man 3, but there we go. No, he's still the last Angry Geek, actually. Brian Hines is still the last Angry Geek. He is still steadily making content. He's still talking about Doctor Who. He's still talking about comics. He's still over on YouTube. Yeah, sadly her character doesn't get good until WandaVision. That's how long it took for them to do something with Kat Dennings in this franchise. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, Malekith is wasted. Christopher Eccleston is wasted. Poor Rene Russo gets shafted in this franchise up until Endgame. And, just such a hot mess. Okay, Rene Russo plays Freya, the mom. Christopher Eccleston was also the ninth Doctor, and he's stuck in all of that makeup as Malekith, the Accursed, and he is so wasted in this movie. Rene Russo is such a good actress, and she's wasted in a role as Freya, and they just kill her off, because that was a good moment, a good dramatic moment was to see Freya die, because we spent so much time with her. We spent more time with Odin than we did with Freya. Anyway, Thor the Dark World sucked, but you already knew that. So after a bit of a bad start to Phase 2, we jump right the hell up to S tier again with the aforementioned better Marvel movie by a much better director, or in this case, pair of directors. Captain America just got, started out solid and then just got really good. The Captain America trilogy managed to be pretty much the best trilogy in the MCU for a character. And I loved this movie so much. It was my favorite movie the year it came out. And I still love it to this day. Which old man in Thor? Anthony Hopkins as Odin? I love everything that the Johnson brothers did. Johnson? No, that's not it. The Russo brothers. Speaking of Russos, no relation to Rene Russo, oddly enough. But the Russo brothers, everything they did in The Winter Soldier and would later do in their Avengers movies, it has been absolutely just out of the park. The old girl who was in Darcy and Jane's group. Stellan Skarsgård, the doctor, Dr. Oh god, he was in Avengers too. What was his name? Doctor Sevig. Doctor Sevig, and yeah, Stellan Skarsgård is probably the highlight of the first two Thor movies, and he's barely in the second one. That's probably that's another. No, I'm thinking of he's barely in Age of Ultron. They sadly just completely mistreated the poor guy. I mean, I get what they were saying, that having an Infinity Stone dig through your brain is probably gonna do some damage, but they treated him as such a joke in that second movie, and I feel so bad for him. I'll say this much: at least Stellan Skarsgård recognized that the problem isn't that he never felt humiliated by working in Marvel, and in fact he recognizes that the problem isn't Marvel, it's capitalism. Shout out to Stellan Skarsgård; he's one of the best. His kids aren't bad actors either. But yeah, Winter Soldier covered so many topics that you hadn't seen yet in the MCU. I mean, Iron Man has been tackling, like, the war on terror and, weapons manufacturing and things of that nature. But here we're actually talking about the NSA and spying and fascists in the highest office of government. So we're talking, like, actual legit issues that still plague us to this day in a superhero movie, and actually handled really well. Excellently handled. Oh, did he? Oh, yeah, absolutely. They mentioned Operation Paperclip, which is such a deep cut that most people don't even remember it, sadly. But yeah, our space race was run by thanks to the Nazis. Hey, former Nazis. It's not like they were reformed or their, ideology went away or anything. But yeah, Winter Soldier is such a good movie. It tackles heavy issues well. It's well acted. Chris Evans is fantastic as Steve Rogers, and Sebastian Stan's turn when he comes back as Bucky, as the Winter Soldier is so excellent. And then Anthony Mackie coming in as the Falcon really helped round out kind of Cap's circle of characters. It's so excellent. I loved it. I love it so much. I think after Winter Soldier, we got the first Guardians. Am I right? I almost did it by memory. I'm pretty sure next is Guardians 1. Yes, I was right. So Guardians 1, let's see, where did I put Guardians 1? Both Guardians of the Galaxies are right next to each other. And they are right behind Captain America, the First Avenger. Right? The Guardians of the Galaxy, like, that's the thing. Iron Man was kind of a C-tier superhero. People knew of Iron Man, but he wasn't a marketable toy. You ask people in the street before 2008, can't support anything on only a line. You need a triangle to actually put stuff. Yup, exactly. I get what you're saying. You can't support. You need to have that sort of structure in order for things. That's why pyramids are always. You get pyramids across the planet because hey, this triangle shape holds things well. Maybe we should use that. Oh yeah, Tony Stark in the books is absolute garbage. I love that Linkara just reads comic Tony Stark as a lousy, filthy drunk. Yeah, Iron Man, C tier. You asked anybody before 2008? You asked anybody before 2008 if who Iron Man was, who Tony Stark was, they'd be like, I don't know. Is he that new pop star? Is he like a country singer? Iron Man, I don't know. Is he like a wrestler or something? Then Iron Man came out with Robert Downey Jr. Everybody knew Iron Man and Tony Stark. Captain America, fairly well recognized. Not exactly a big name. The only times they saw Captain America outside the comics were the animated TV show and the maybe if they were unlucky, the movie starring J.D. Salinger's kid from the 90s. But yeah, not a lot of people knew in the pop culture zeitgeist outside of comics knew about Captain America either. Yeah, I wasn't very big on Iron Man. I remember there being an animated show right before the movie came out, Iron Man Animated Adventures, and I remember him in the first being a thing in the first Ultimate Alliance game, but I think that was post MCU. And I think I saw him in like Spider-Man, or like that same Spider-Man cartoon style that he had a Saturday morning cartoon show in the 90s. With a pretty kick-ass theme, too. Yeah. And then since the MCU took those characters and made them known to the pop culture zeitgeist at large and stuck them in people's memory, so now they know exactly who these people are. Oh, yeah, I remember that, because instead of it being in Afghanistan, the original armor was... Oh god, that original armor was so bad. Yeah, because I think they were trying to do like a knight's helmet with the slits for the mouth and the eyes, but it looks so bad. I am Iron Man. Yeah, it sounds like a freaking power ballad almost. Or not a power ballad, but like an arena rock song. Anyway, we're getting really deep into the MCU basically has been able to take these lower tier, non-X-Men, non-Wolverine, non-Spider-Man, non-Venom Marvel characters and let everybody know who the hell they are, so that people know exactly who the hell these people are and that there's more than Spider-Man and Wolverine in the Marvel Universe. And now we've gotten to the point where even a deep cut... no, not the one in the movie, Ben. The one in the comics. That first comic, the 60s era Iron Man armor is just egregious when you look at it now. That's what Hillian was talking about, where it looks like a Chinese stereotype. And it didn't help with the fact that they were in Vietnam fighting communists. Ugh. Yeah, unfortunately, that's one of the worst things about Iron Man, is that he's always rooted in jingoism and America's military-industrial complex. But, I mean, that was the point, is that Stan Lee wanted to make a character who was the least likable person in reality and then make people like him, I think. Yeah, oh, God, it's been forever since I dug through those old comics. Anyway, back to Guardians of the Galaxy. You take a D. This is a cut that I didn't know existed until the movie was announced. I was slightly familiar. With Marvel characters and Marvel comics going into the MCU, the early phases of the MCU. Most of the people who were comic book nerds that I knew at the time didn't even know who the Guardians of the Galaxy were. And actually, wait, no. I did know who the Guardians were. Exactly. The Guardians had nothing. Nobody knew who the Guardians of the Galaxy were, except if you were a dedicated watcher of Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. If you watched Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes from 2012, the one that came right after the movie was popular, the one that was on... Exactly, it's the sequel team! The original Guardians team doesn't show up until the sequel! But anyway, in a few of the episodes of the second season of of Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the Guardians of the Galaxy do show up. And that happened right before the movie was announced. That's the only reason I know the Guardians of the Galaxy were a thing. And James Gunn took the fact that nobody knew what the hell this thing is and went bug nuts with it. Okay, we got a talking raccoon, a tree that only says "I am Groot," couple of colored people, a couple of people with green skin. I could make this work. And then he set it to 70s music and everybody loved it. Huh. Interesting. So it's like he's mixing English and Dutch and basically saying, I am big. Huh. Yeah. But yeah, James Gunn managed to take basically just like an open sandbox with like no preconceived notions, no real pop culture history behind him, and Disney said, okay, we need you to make a movie in that. And James Gunn went wild with it. Such a fantastic ride. So yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy is great. I think the only reason I'm not putting it in S tier is because I think the Ronan as a villain is kind of not great. Lee Pace is kind of, I think the actors... Yeah, and then Disney realized, wait, this is stupid. Hey, James, do you want to come back? And so we got to make the Suicide Squad and Guardians Volume 3. Chuds tried to cancel him on Twitter for speaking out against Trump, I think? Speaking out against something. He was too woke, so reactionaries on Twitter decided that he needed to go, so they dug up some old jokes he made about pedophiles. They called back the big guns. But yeah, James Gunn managed to come back and make 2 movies when the Chuds tried to get rid of him from making 1. So like, that is some natural 20 on luck rolls when it comes to that sort of thing. Not only do you get fired from one movie and go off to make another, the movie you were fired off of decides to hire you back because, like, wait, that was a stupid decision. We need to I know. It was like somebody over at Disney was like, I know it's the council's decision, but given that it's a stupid decision. Anyway, Guardians of Galaxy is good. Ronan's kind of wasted as a villain. Even when he shows up again in Captain Marvel, it's just Ronan's not... has Ronan ever been that great of a villain? Anyway, yeah. They made us love a giant tree, a talking raccoon, and a couple of people in skin makeup. Right? Well, a watchable live action one. The animated Suicide Squad movies have been pretty decent. But then the DC animated movie lines have always kind of been fairly decent. Is people a literal? You try to use metaphor with him, he'll go right over his head. Nothing goes over my head. My reflexes are too great. I would catch it. God, I love that. Yeah, I think Volume 3 is going to be the end of Bautista as Drax, because he's getting older, and he doesn't want to do action roles anymore, which is good, because he's actually a decent actor, so he can do other roles. For the most part, Red Skull was decent overall. I actually liked Grandmaster a bit. But yeah, for the most part, especially for the ones we've covered, aside from Loki, the villains haven't been all that great. Like, I mean, Robert Redford was good as the villain in Captain America Winter Soldier, but he wasn't like a villain. He was a twist villain. Anyway, Guardians was good. Avengers Age of Ultron. Where did I put that bastard? I guess I did put it above. Wow, I thought I liked Incredible Hulk more than this, but nah. Still bottom tier. Still, these 4 are the bottom. Thankfully, these 4 are the bottom of the barrel. We're not going to go anywhere near this tier again. But yeah, Age of Ultron is just the hottest of messes. And I think it's finally good that they finally got rid of that trash bag Whedon, because people were finally starting to get to the point where he was finally starting to get to a point where the things he was making just weren't good. And and when you stop making something that's good, people tend to stop wanting to put up with you. Yeah, Age of Ultron has good things in it. Vision is a good addition in Age of Ultron. The Johannesburg fight is good in Age of Ultron. Wanda and Pietro are good in Age of Ultron. The fact that they had to kill Pietro is absolute bullshit. Especially since Disney went up and bought the people that they had to kill off Pietro for anyway. Ultron's lip. The only thing I hate more than the kid in Iron Man 3 are Ultron's goddamn robot lips. Ultron, like James Spader, I have no problems with him as Ultron. But Ultron's design works so well because he's a faceless entity. He looks non-human. Why would you give him lips? I'm still baffled that was the decision somebody made. And that nobody along the lines went and said, that's stupid. Given that that's a stupid decision, I'm not going to accept it. Oh, God, now I'm bugging. What's the line? Given that it's a stupid decision, I've elected to ignore it. Yeah, Age of Ultron was a hot mess of a movie. And, like, once again, Ultron, when he showed up in the very beginning, and when he showed up and his look at the very end, that should have been his look for the entire movie. That skull-like appearance. That should have been what he looked like throughout the movie. But yeah, yeah, James Spader is that good. James Spader is a good actor. Yeah, I love it. But yeah, Age of Ultron is one I would never want to go back to because it's just not fun to watch. It is a hot mess of good ideas handled poorly. I think they were trying to do too much, ultimately. I also remember that Natasha just gets captured because at that point during the filming, Scarlett had gotten pregnant, and so they just decided to leave her in a cell because that's totally what Ultron would do with Natasha. Why do they even have to kidnap Natasha at that point? Like, I have so many, it just raises too many questions, to quote a rival franchise's movie. Anyway, Age of Ultron, it sucked. We followed that up with a much better movie, though, so Phase 2 didn't end on a bad note. It ended on a pretty decent, okay note. And that note is Ant-Man. Oh yeah, this was the follow-up to the Avengers, the highest-grossing box office movie at that point, almost. And we were going to get the sequel, and it was a hot mess. And then we chill out and come back, and we end Phase 2 with a simple heist movie. We make Hank Pym a legacy character, and we make Scott Lang and Hank's daughter, Hope, the new Ant-Man and the Wasp. And so we get... Sadly, I would like to have seen Edgar Wright's vision for Ant-Man. I would like to have seen what he had done. But I did like the end product. I like the playing around with the size effects. I like the heist. It's fun. It's a fun, lighthearted... Yeah, Hank Pym, they really gave the shaft in the comics. They They did such shit to him. Thankfully, now he's just a legacy character whose biggest issue is that he's prideful and narcissistic and not abusive and angry. But, what was I saying? Yeah, Hank Pym originally is the one who created Ultron. But I guess it's fitting that without a Hank Pym like that in this universe, it would end up being Tony who created Ultron. Tony has created more villains than anybody else in the MCU. So yeah, I like the giant Thomas the Train engine at the end. Yeah, all the stuff where they play around with size. They have a giant ant for a pet now. I like Michael Pena's character. I like him. I like him as part of Scott's whole like crew. That's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and it's something lighthearted that we needed to wash the taste of Age of Ultron out of our mouths. But we're going to get into the heavy stuff next, because we hop over from the lighthearted heist movie that is Ant-Man into one of the heavier movies of the MCU, Civil War. Yeah, his goop gun. Yeah, I'm surprised he just didn't keep that as a prototype. Like, here, I'm going to turn you into goop. He decides to not keep that? Wouldn't you want to keep that? I guess the excuse is that he's crazy, so he's not thinking clearly. So he's not thinking that I could actually use this goop gun. But, yeah, we kick off Phase 3 with Captain America: Civil War. And, I liked Winter Soldier, but the Russo brothers came in and said, "Oh, you like that? Well, here, bam, have this now." Okay, yes, please. Speaking of taking things from the comics and improving them, despite the fact that they had a fraction of the characters to work with the storyline, the Russo brothers managed to do a good version of the Civil War. This time around, tying it more into the events of the MCU. And I will say, an entire country falling out of the sky is more of a reason to create a superhero sort of civil servant act. Not Keaton. Was that his last name, Keaton? Yeah, no, that's Corey Stoll. Corey Stoll is also he's in a bunch of stuff. He's Officer Krupke in the new not Officer Krupke, he's the detective in the new West Side Story. But yeah, Corey Stoll is the one who played Yellow Jacket. Yeah, Avengers. Yeah, exactly. Hey, that last Avengers movie kind of sucked. How about we give you a good Avengers movie instead? And the Russos would be able to give us some more good Avengers movies after this. But, yeah, I think compared to the fact that a couple of reality stars blew up a school bus, having a country fall out of the goddamn sky is more of a reason for them to try and register superheroes. Just a thought. Just an idea. But yeah, I think utilizing the characters that they had and being able to introduce Spider-Man and Black Panther in the same movie in really good ways, too. We got to see Spider-Man with just a taste enough of Spider-Man and Black Panther to say, I want more of that. Can I have more of that, please? And yeah, the story with Civil War works way better here. I like what they do with Zemo here, with Daniel Bruhl. He is so great as this manipulative puppet master behind the scenes. And yeah, the Russos really knocked it out of the park with Civil War. And I forget what comes up next. Doctor Strange was up next. Huh. I forget they followed up Civil War with Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange, I put an A tier, but it's right behind Iron Man. Nope, I said right behind Iron Man. I kind of like Doctor Strange. I was familiar with the guy who made Doctor Strange before because I liked his movie Sinister. And the screenwriter, C. Robert Cargill, was a guy I knew back in the days of Spill.com, oddly enough. So when he started actually, writing movies and novels, I was like, holy shit, I know this guy. Yeah. But yeah, Doctor Strange is an interesting one. I had seen the animated Doctor Strange movie they did, so I was familiar with his origin story. And I think this is one that's good, but could be better. It lacked a lot. For one thing, I think there was always going to be problems with how they handled the Ancient One. So it's no one, If it was, it was trying to. I mean, once again, you're trying to make use of a very, very racist character from the comics. The very stereotypical ancient wise one. But there's ways of handling that without being like trying to go completely hands off and say, nope, they're not Asian anymore, so it's not racist. Okay, bye. That said, Tilda Swinton, if you're somebody who's an ambiguous, ancient, ethereal being, you cast Tilda Swinton, so that at least they knew that much. I think Liam was way too old for Stephen Strange. If you got 90s Liam Neeson for Doctor Strange, that would work. But yeah, I think Benedict Cumberbatch has really come into his own as Doctor Strange. I think he's really kind of getting the hang of this. That's why I'm hyped for Multiverse of Madness coming in May. But yeah, I think this one suffers from lackluster villain. Caecilius is just not very great actor. Mads Mikkelsen plays Caecilius, but he's just completely forgettable. That said, I will say Doctor Strange has the best climactic fight in the entire MCU. Second best after Endgame. Endgame is like artwork. It's like art, almost. Huh. Not familiar. Like, wait, which? As in, like, the one that they turned into a Saturday morning cartoon? I didn't know that was Italian. Or is which something entirely different? So remember there was like it was like a competitor to the Winx Club that was called Witch. Although I may be thinking of something else. At any rate, yeah, Dormammu, I've come to bargain. That whole fight. Yeah, okay, I was right. That one. Hey, at least Witch didn't get a shitty Netflix reboot. But, Doctor Strange managed to... Yeah, I think they kind of leaned into the fact that Steven is basically another Tony. I think now they're kind of easing up on him. He's a lot more lighthearted. He's a lot more jokey. And I think that's making him less narcissistic. He's also more altruistic. He's not as wholly narcissistic as Tony was, as Tony was as a character. So I think they eventually start to differentiate him more from Tony. But this intro is very much essentially Tony Stark, but with magic. I mean, that's kind of what it was from the comics too. After that, yeah, Phase 3, I completely lose track of the release order. After Doctor Strange, Magic Man. After Doctor Strange came Guardians Volume 2, which I liked a little bit more. Nope, where is it? Than Guardians Volume 1. Slightly more. Still some issues, not the same issues, though. This time, at least, the villain is more memorable, for one. Because you got Kurt Russell there as the bad guy. You can't go wrong with Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell is fantastic. I don't like how... I think my biggest issue here is how I don't like how they treated Mantis. I feel like they leaned in too hard on the joke being that everybody treats Mantis like she's Meg Griffin. And I think they started to step away from that a bit, hopefully. And yeah, Sylvester Stallone is the original leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Michelle Yeoh's first appearance in the MCU. She will come back later. Because you know what? We've got Michelle Yeoh. Why not say there's more than one Michelle Yeoh in the MCU? Why would you limit yourself to one Michelle Yeoh? There's a movie coming out soon that has an infinite Michelle Yeohs. Because, yeah, and Miley Cyrus. I do like... Because that's the thing, is like people say that redeeming Yondu was taking an abuser and turning him into giving him a last minute redemption. I feel like Yondu was handled better than, say, the Mandarin was in Shang-Chi, which we'll get to. I think Yondu's redemption was handled better because even in the first Guardians, you always got the feeling that Yondu genuinely cared for Peter. That he may have, been verbally abusive to Peter, and that may have traumatized Peter at a young age. He's not great for that, but Volume 2 emphasized the fact that, yeah, he's kind of a piece of shit, but then so was Peter's other dad. So he better the piece of shit that actually liked him. Yondu actually cared about Peter. That's why he got him a freaking Zune. Yeah, this took what worked about Guardians and made it so much more fun. And everything, yeah, the Yondu was given a big send-off. And I think Yondu is a great way to handle a sort of anti-heroic character, where he's not a good guy, per se, but he doesn't have bad intentions, ultimately. He does feel, pity and care for things. Same with, that's the thing. They redeemed another villain in this movie with Nebula, and she became, look, I get that nobody stays dead in comics. We've been fairly good about people staying dead in the MCU, so let's not mess that up. Her whole role was, they probably picked Miley because it was funny. James Gunn thought it'd be funny, and it's only there for and she's only there for one line. Exactly, the whole point of Guardians Volume 2 is that you have to break the cycle of abuse. And that, as long as your family, your family doesn't have to be biological, it can be found. And found family is sometimes even better than biological family. Because Nebula and Gamora realized that their found family sisterhood is better than being, quote, the daughters of Thanos, even though they were both kidnapped. But the found family of the Guardians was better than, and Yondu being Peter's found family was better than him once he met his biological father. And it turned out his biological father was a precursor to the more galactic, the Galactus-sized Celestials we would see in Eternals. But then that form was always kind of like an avatar for him. Wow. James Gunn was the first one to introduce Celestials to us. And it wasn't as a giant Galactus-ass monstrosity. Yeah, Guardians Volume 2. Very good. We follow Volume 2 with Spider... Yeah, and you know, the fact that his dad killed his mom. We follow Spider-Man... We follow Guardians Volume 2 with Spider-Man Homecoming. And I put Spider-Man Homecoming in the same category... if I can find it. Where is Spider-Man Homecoming? Oh, this is Spider-Man Homecoming. This is Far From Home. I put Spider-Man Homecoming right by Ant-Man. Same vein. It's a fun, lighthearted, low-stakes superhero movie. We get to see more of Peter and his life in the MCU. Yeah, Tony Stark essentially kind of fills the role of Uncle Ben. But we'll talk about that later. Peter tries to get used to being Spider-Man more, and thinking he needs to be bigger, but realizing he's just at his best protecting people. He doesn't need to save the world all the time. Sometimes he just needs to stay the neighborhood Spider-Man. Really fun, really liked it. Love Zendaya as MJ. Interesting that they took, from what I hear, they kind of adapted a character from Miles Morales' Spider-Man, Genki, and gave a variation of that to Peter, which I actually think is good, because having Peter be a loser who's always by himself and not giving him some kind of friend to always bounce off of is a good idea. I mean, it's kind of antithetical to Peter's whole character from the comics, but I think it's better. Yeah, well, that's the thing. She's not in her 30s. I think I'm pretty sure Marissa Tomei is in her 50s. Let's see. Spider-Man came out in 2017, and Marissa Tomei was born in 1964. So in 2004, she turned 40. So she was 58. No, 53. 53 in 2017. Exactly. But they've been slightly aging down Aunt May over the course of the franchises. So like Sally Field was in her like 60s, maybe 70s for Amazing Spider-Man. Actually, how old was she in Amazing Spider-Man? Sally Field. Sally Field was born in 1946. So yeah, she would have been in her 60s for the Spider-Man movies, later 60s. So yeah, they've been slowly aging down Aunt May. And you know what? I kind of dig. It's kind of fitting that like the sort of latter-day boomer great aunt, like I would imagine it's not his great aunt. Well, that's the thing. What Peter's Aunt May and Uncle Ben were his biological. Those were the biological brother. Uncle Ben was the biological brother of Peter's father. So it actually makes more sense for them to be younger, because why the hell? That implies that either that Peter's parents had him later in life, or that there was some decades-long gap between Uncle Ben and his brother being born, which happens, but I don't think that was the intention, because in the prequel comic, it implies that they're actually closer in age. Anyway. Spider-Man Homecoming is good. But this is one that's grown on me more and more. And that is Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok. A.K.a. the first really good Thor movie. You'd think, but I think they're always trying to play the Happy May role as like, he's more into her than she's into him. Like, that one I always took as, like, Aunt May likes Happy, and he likes being friends with Happy, is not entirely in love with Happy the same way Happy's in love with her. That's not Gunn, though. That's Taika Waititi. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is, like, Ragnarok gave us a taste of World War Hulk. It took Thor away from the sort of, like, Shakespearean sort of fantasy, like, high fantasy, into more of, like, an 80s sci-fi, and just allowed itself to have fun. And also talk about historical revisionism and colonialism. Didn't expect that from this movie when I first saw it. You don't expect this movie to go into historical revisionism and, making yourself sound like the good guy after decades of conquest. After decades of bloodshed and colonialism, all of a sudden you're the good guy, huh? But yeah, plus I love Clancy Brown as Surtur. Clancy Brown was I did not expect them to go for Clancy Brown. I'm so used to Clancy Brown as, like, a B-movie actor or a voice actor, which he still is, but, I mean, like, I didn't expect him to just bring in Clancy Brown to voice Surtur. Jeff Goldblum as just being full-on Jeff. They basically said, hey, Jeff, we're going to put some weird face makeup on you, and you're just going to come in and wear a weird costume, and just be yourself. Just be Jeff Goldblum. Just be Jeff Goldblum for the movie. It really is just quite the revamp for for Thor's character, and I think it helps make it so much better. I like the introduction of Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie. I think she's a great addition, and I love Cate Blanchett as Hela. I love her as Hela. Once again, a better when you have good villains, it makes her a better movie. I even like, he's not quite utilized in the same way as in the comics, but I like Karl Urban as the Executioner. I think I think they do more with him than you usually see. Usually he's just a grunt. Well, yes, hopefully in Love and Thunder we're actually going to see actual on-screen representation of it, but yeah, I think they revealed in canon that Valkyrie is bi, at least bi, if not pan or just just lesbian. What was I saying? Karl Urban's Executioner actually has, personality and pathos. He's actually, he has regrets of siding with the villain, but he does it because his biggest issue is that he feels inadequate and he wants to feel strong. It's all lighter. It's never stated outright. It's all in the subtext. And I love, Taika took Marvel's honestly worst franchise and made gold out of it. Exactly. I think the weirdest thing in the movie, and probably the worst part, is Karl Urban playing with the shake weight. At the same time, it's Karl Urban playing with the shake weight. Like, you're never going to get that anywhere else. You're never going to get that anywhere else. Just Karl Urban using the shake weight. It's wild. And then he gets a nice redemption at the end where he's like, where he's initially sneaking away with the other Asgardians, and then he realizes, nah, fuck this. Brings out his guns and starts mowing down dead zombies with them. That's a nice redemption. I liked how his character played out overall. So yeah, Taika Waititi, he's got a high bar to cross for Love and Thunder, but I believe he can cross it. I'm very curious how exactly Love and Thunder is going to work with the Guardians of the Galaxy involved, because they are going to show up. And also the fact that Mjolnir's gone. Exactly. Thor is met with obstacle after obstacle, more than he's ever faced in his life. And it's ultimately about accepting the fact that it doesn't matter if you don't save the place. What matters is you save the people. Now, unfortunately, my phase 3 is fuzzy again. Okay, next is Black Panther. Well, he loses his hammer. He actually gets way better powers. He gains the Odin Force after this. He gains the Odin Force by the end. That's what the thunder is. That's like the Odin Force, I believe. And so he becomes the literal embodiment of thunder. Technically lightning, electricity, whatever. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. You know, one of the best actors of our generation, gone too soon. Also, fuck cancer. Anyway, Black Panther, I put right ahead of Captain America: First Avenger. It is that good of a movie. Thing is, the biggest problem, the first MCU movie to win itself an Oscar. The problem with Black Panther is it has a great first and second act, and then it kind of missteps on the third act because once again I've talked about this when I've reviewed MCU movies before. There's a trope in the MCU movies where all of the really good character stuff in the beginning kind of gets dropped by the end. And you see it a lot in the TV series as well. Oh yeah, the Afrocentrism and the Afrofuturism in this movie is such a love letter to African culture. It's like, okay, we get the first real African superhero in the Marvel Universe. And also one of the most prominent black characters in the comics. So we're going to lean the hell into it. And African culture, as much as we can logistically fit into this movie, we are going to fit into it. Afrofuturism. We're going to display Africa not as this sad, war-torn, poverty-stricken wasteland. You know, it is a place of technology. And, I mean, granted, it's a fake place of technology, but Africa is a place rich with culture and history, and not just, blood diamond slaves or war-torn savannah. Also, the Dora Milaje, such good female characters. I loved Lupita Nyong'o in the movie. I love her relationship with T'Challa, and they let. Yeah, Vibranium's a bit of a Mary Sue. The only thing that can really compete with Vibranium is whatever the hell Thanos' sword was made out of. And even then, that was more for, dramatic effect than anything else. For the most part, nothing really affects Vibranium. But, what was I saying? Oh, they actually let Ryan Coogler tackle black issues. They let him tackle black issues in a superhero movie. This is what you do. This is what you get when you kick Perlmutter out of the way and say, okay, we're going to get Ryan Coogler, who has directed some very excellent movies up to this point. He is going to handle Black Panther, and he is going to tackle, systemic racism and colonialism and black empowerment and also black liberation. But ultimately, we're talking about so many major issues that face, like realizing the sins of the past have come back to haunt you, and how perhaps the sins of the father, and specifically the sins of the father, and how if T'Chaka had actually given a shit about his nephew, they may not have had to deal with Killmonger. And once again, another villain that is at least on par with Loki. Yeah, I do wish. Claw is such an iconic Black Panther villain that I wish they could have kept him longer. But yeah, Killmonger Killmonger was that's the interesting thing too. I knew M'Baku as a villain. Here is a bit more of an anti-hero, and I like it. Also, Winston Duke as M'Baku is amazing. Mainly because Winston Duke is amazing, but yeah, Winston Duke's M'Baku, the white ape, is wonderful. Just a wonderful, wonderful character. He took what was essentially a bland villain from the comics and made a really gregarious and fun and charismatic anti-hero. I think that's the thing is, like, Killmonger is the argument from the center where everything he's saying is right. It's just that his solution is complete and total systemic revolution through means of violence. And then the answer afterwards is to do the exact same thing. It's more about revenge than it is about justice. I think that's the key. But the MCU also has this same problem in Captain Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I will get into. Specifically that you have villains with good ideas, good intentions, and then they make sure to amp it up to the fact that they're willing to kill for it is the main reason that they're a villain. And we can never address... I mean, thankfully, Black Panther at least addresses everything Killmonger was fighting for, and T'Challa is changed and made better from it. But, yeah, what they did with the Flag Smashers in Falcon and the Winter Soldier still bugs the hell out of me. I mean, it makes sense given the character and given everything surrounding it, but given the characters and the setting and everything surrounding it, yeah. Exactly. I think that's the whole thing, and there's a problem with that, in that by constantly portraying the right ideas in the hands of villains, you begin to connotate that villainy, that villainy with those ideas. So, if this murderer and this guy who's plotting genocide is spouting about this one thing, it can't possibly be good or right. So I think there's a problem with that, but that's Hollywood in general. Hollywood is of course going to make sure that, the good ideas are given to the villains. The villains are trying to actually tackle the issues that the heroes are, that's the whole thing with Poison Ivy too. Poison Ivy is exactly right, but she kills people, so she's the villain. Anyway, Black Panther is good. The end fight is kind of a letdown, but overall, everything Ryan Coogler did with Black Panther was like the best way you could introduce this character in his own movie. And I'm very curious to see what they do with Wakanda Forever, because after Chadwick's tragic passing, there really is. There's a lot of there's a lot of tension and worry about what exactly they're going to do with with that line of the cinematic universe. That's always kind of been a problem with Claw. I mean, they hired Andy Serkis for him, so of course he's going to be more cartoonish. But yeah, Claw is unfortunately kind of turned into a cartoonish villain. But they've always kind of had similar problems with that. Some villains they don't take seriously enough. Some villains they take too seriously. There's a balance in there that they never always land on. But speaking of good villains, we're gonna hit the peak of the MCU, in my opinion. There's not gonna be another entry higher than this one. Infinity War is my favorite MCU film. I absolutely love every second of Infinity War. I love the invasion, the next invasion of New York, where the Ebony Maw and that big guy are trying to steal the Time Stone. Oh yeah, it's emotionally draining. It's like Empire Strikes Back dialed up to 11. that level of drain. Yeah, that level of intensity. Obsidian Black, yeah, something like that. Or is Obsidian Black the, is that the lady? Obsidian Black may be the lady, who actually was played by an actress who grew up near me, oddly enough. Same girl, she was also in Gone Girl. And the new Ghostbusters, actually, too. Carrie Coon. Good for her. Exactly. Proxima Midnight, that's it. Yeah, that's who the lady is. So Obsidian Black, yeah. I think the biggest problem with Thanos' other heralds or children, whatever he calls them, they don't really have a personality. Proxima Midnight gets a bit of a personality, and Ebony Maw gets a little bit, but Obsidian Black is a big dumb guy, and Corvus Glaive is, I guess, there until he dies, but yeah, seriously. But I genuinely... Oh, the Surfer... Well, they didn't have Fox yet. Fantastic Four were still with Fox at this point. So, we're not going to get the Surfer's coming. And so is Galactus. If anything, the villain... the Celestials and the Eternals was preparing people for the coming of Galactus. He's coming. Oh, he's coming. But, I love all the entire cast of this movie. I love the fact that Bruce Banner got to run around in the Hulkbuster suit. I like the fights on Titan, and I like the fight in Wakanda. And even though it ends on a sad note, I like that piece at the end, because it's just like, so even though there are the questions of like, what now, knowing the conclusion in terms of like just what I enjoy out of the movie, I know the conclusion is coming, but I like what I got here with this part one. And yeah, I like James Brolin as Thanos. I think the people have argued that turning him into an eco-fascist is worse than having him just be a simp for death. But I kind of prefer him being an eco-fascist, because being a simp for death is kind of silly, I'll admit. So having him be an eco-fascist and, you know, spout the kind of things that we hear from actual eco-fascists, I think hits much harder than he got a boner for death. Exactly. I think people were expecting it to be part one, so that they expected them to fight Thanos for all of the stones at the end. So to have it just end with the snap was what threw people for a loop. Yeah, that was a good choice by the Russos, and they laid this all out. They laid this all out to Feige when they first came in to work with Marvel Studios, and they were like, okay, if we're lucky, we might be able to pull this off. And they managed to pull it off. Next, after Infinity War, we have we follow up the tragedy with a bit of levity in the form of Ant-Man and the Wasp. And I put Ant-Man and the Wasp right above the first Ant-Man. Not too much higher. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They really laid into it. That's part of the reason why I love it. So much care went into Infinity War that I love. Well, not even midquel. This is taking place during the events of... Yeah, Holland was great in that. Holland nailed that performance. Without Tom Holland's Mr. Stark, and without his delivery of that line, that wouldn't have hit as well. I mean, people make a meme out of it now, but that's because it just like felt like a stab in the heart when it happened. But yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp is a slight improvement over the first Ant-Man. Mr. Stark, I don't feel so... I almost want to make that a sound redeem, but I think that would kill the vibe too much. I like we get to see Hope as the Wasp. We get to see Scott Lang after the events of Civil War. We get to understand more of the quantum realm and that whole thing, which ultimately led into what Phase 4 is going to be about, which is quantum mechanics and quantum physics and multiverse theory and time and all that. So that's going to be the big theming of this phase. Exactly. And especially if you really liked Tom Holland as Peter Parker in the last two movies, to see him die off like that and so tragically, it's just like, oh my god, your soul is crushed. I like Ghost. I think she's a great villain. Not great in terms of personality and screen presence, but great in terms of character design and motivation. I like Ghost as a villain in terms of the fact that she's able to phase in and out of reality, and her drive is to literally survive. Yeah, I think. That's the thing is we don't. Wait, Janet or Hope's? Because Hope is the daughter. Janet is Michelle Pfeiffer, who they go into the quantum realm to save. Janet is the one who's the original Wasp, and then got shrunk down in order to destroy that missile, and then wasn't able to ever come back. Which also I like. Yeah, Janet. Yeah, I like that. Oh, okay, yeah, then in the books, yeah. I like that here. I think that's the problem. I think that's the whole thing, is that we don't get to see much of Hank and Janet's actual relationship overall. Especially since Janet goes missing for 30 years. And I'm very interested to see Hank and Janet's interactions in the next Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. I think Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer are going to work great off of each other. Yeah, I think definitely. The villain is the villain, not because they are bad, but because they act as an antagonist to the heroes whose goals are separate. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think that, although I hear that panel is often taken out of context. But yeah, once again, but even then, even if you do put the context of the fact that he's literally going crazy because of the Pym particles, it doesn't exactly help things. Anyway. I'm sorry, excuse you? Well, I know Superman's canon in the Marvel Universe, but only as a fictional character. Are we talking about the actual literal Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle? Or are we talking about the characters Batman and Catwoman? Yeah. At any rate, Ant-Man and the Wasp is good. Not as fun as the first Ant-Man, but actually has a lot more going for it. Wait. You're thinking of Michael Keaton as Batman. Michael Douglas didn't play any superheroes before the MCU. Michelle Pfeiffer played Selina Kyle. Oh, wait, no, Michael Keaton was the Vulture. That's what you're talking about. Okay, yes. Yeah, Michael Keaton, who I loved as the Vulture, by the way. I loved his once again, good motivation. Class issues. Calling out Tony Stark. It's just he's also, once again, profiting off of selling alien tech to, criminals. People who are using it to kill people. Also, Uncle Aaron, the Prowler? Is it the Prowler? The purple-suited villain in Into the Spider-Verse. Uncle Aaron. Miles is Uncle Aaron. That's who Donald Glover plays in Homecoming. Yeah, Prowler. So, Prowler exists in... Miles exists! Miles does exist in this universe. We know this. It's just a matter of time before he shows up. Anyway, after Ant-Man and the Wasp came Captain Marvel. And Captain Marvel, I'm putting right behind Doctor Strange. I think Captain Marvel worked about as well as you can expect. Because we're taking a jump back in time to the 90s. And we're introducing a much newer character. We're not doing the legacy character of Marvel, although that character is in there in a sense. But we're taking a character and introducing her to a wider audience. And I think for the most part they nailed it. And I like Brie Larson. I think she's fantastic as Carol Danvers. And I like her the more she gets to play her. And I'm very interested to see her in The Marvels with the other two Ms. Marvels. The Photon from the WandaVision series. Monica Rambeau. Monica Rambeau. Is the daughter Monica or is the daughter Maria? Anyway, the Rambeau... Photon, Rambo, and Kamala Khan are once they get in, now that they have been introduced. Once Kamala Khan gets introduced, and Monica Rambeau got introduced in WandaVision, and her and Kamala Khan are going to join with Carol on something. I forget I forget if they've announced who the villain for that is. But I like Brie Larson. I like the themes they were going for. They didn't nail it 100%, but I like the theming of the fact that Carol is constantly being told, because she's a woman, to just give up, to just stand out. She's not tough enough, and to always, always exceed the expectations given to her. Well, I know she was. Monica got snapped. I don't remember. I don't think her mom got snapped. I think she snapped back, and then she found out her mom had died while she was snapped. Because I remember they introduce her coming back from the snap. But we'll get to that. Anyway, I like Brie Larson's chemistry with Sam Jackson as Nick Fury. I like the way they play off of each other. Yeah, the whole thing, all the stuff. I'm very curious as to how exactly the Kree work. I think the idea is that they are a multi-racial collective empire, because they've got what look like humans, they've got humanoid aliens, and then there's the intelligence, and then you've got assholes like Ronan who look more like the comic book Kree. There's the Kree and the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that nobody talks about. But yeah, it's wild. And I enjoyed it for the most part still. It's not perfect ultimately, but there's a lot of really good stuff going for it. And I enjoyed it, and I'm very curious to see what they do with her in the coming films. And, series and everything. And next up after that, we got the big one. The Phase 3 ender. And there's one more after this. But with Ant-Man and the Wasp establishing more, and the introduction of Carol Danvers, we finally get into Endgame. Endgame is not S tier for me. And yeah, I think that's what they're implying. And there have been empires like that before. I think the Persian Empire had something like that going on. Endgame is not S tier for me. It never got to the point of S tier. Mainly because it's 3 goddamn hours long. Holy shit, did that movie take long. Like, Infinity War is long. But Endgame is Return of the King levels long. And oh, it really is just like a hike to get through. I remember that because of the teaser for all the teasers saying that Nick Fury was contacting Carol Danvers, and then she was barely in it. Ultimately, it became a time heist. Although at the same point, I don't know what all you could do to finish the storyline. I don't hate the time heist, and Endgame is really good, but there are little things that are mainly the length that keep me from enjoying it personally more than objectively. Like acknowledging the fact that it's a good movie versus it's a personal favorite of mine, the way that Infinity War or Winter Soldier or Ragnarok are. That said, that climactic fight is cinema history. Ultimately, kind of, yeah, by going through the quantum realm, he kind of helped trigger off the multiverse, and then that led into Loki as well. But yeah, the whole thing Endgame is really good, and that end fight is iconic and is now part of cinema history. Especially when you started off from when Tony, Thor, and Cap are facing off against Thanos by themselves to when the armies collide. Not everything is perfect. I feel like their A-Force, I think they're called, the all-female. Basically, that scene where Brie Larson gets the hold of the Infinity Gauntlet. That scene of all the female heroes together in one scene kind of felt unearned, mainly because a lot of them, like Gwyneth Paltrow, Pepper Potts just got her suit. Hope hasn't really been a part of this. A lot of these women don't even know each other. It's just kind of aesthetically good. Oh yeah, that took a while to get. Yeah, I liked it though. I liked Bruce Banner as Smart Hulk. I think he works great. Not that he sticks around for long, but I guess we'll learn about that in She-Hulk. Is there anything else I need to say about Endgame? I think that's about it. Really good climactic fight. A bit long. Some of its things don't feel a bit, not forced, but at least unearned. If it's not forced, if it wasn't in there by committee decision, by saying we need to include something like this, if nothing else, it kind of felt unearned. But we move along, and we finish off Phase 3. Yeah, exactly. Rescue came out of nowhere. Why was Tony building a rescue suit? Why was she part of the... Once again, like I said, little things that they never really dig into. And those are the kind of things that stick in my craw. But where are you? Okay, here you are. But we finished Phase 3. No. She only got to be at rescue for the Battle of New York. Not New York, Battle of Upper New York. Or Battle for Earth? I forget. I think they called it the Battle for Earth. Or Battle of Earth. In the final battle for Endgame. So she had already given birth before she became rescue, because I think that's what they're implying. I don't think they're implying that during the 5 years after the snap that Tony made her a rescue suit and that she was rescue between points when when she was pregnant with their daughter. But I don't know. Who the hell? Once again, things that are probably going to be explained later. I mean, we got 2 Iron Man series coming up. First with what's her name? Riri Williams. She's getting her own series, and then Armor Wars is coming out. Exactly. Anyway, we finish off Phase 3 and the whole Infinity Saga with Spider-Man Far From Home, which is going right here behind the Guardians movies. I genuinely had fun with Far From Home. I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's good dealing with Peter's loss of his MCU Uncle Ben, essentially. Yeah, the inside of the rescue suit smells like her hoo-ha. No, that's the thing, is that when she puts on the rescue suit, there's actually a jade egg that... God damn it, I'm stopping. Yeah, the Dutch scene was really good, especially when the hooligans actually closed the jail door to be like, okay, well, we're going to close this, because we're not going to try to escape. We're just going to stick right here. I loved Mysterio. I loved how they handled Mysterio. Tying him into Tony Stark kind of sucks. I kind of wish they didn't tie him directly into Tony Stark. Maybe he was like a competitor of Tony Stark or something, but to have him directly be an ex-employee, the whole thing feels weird. But I did like Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio, and everyone knew it was coming. Everyone knew it was going to come, especially if they knew about Mysterio. And the Mysterio scenes, especially when he starts messing with Peter's head, are all fantastic. Yeah, I really enjoyed Far From Home. It's such a great film, and then that great stinger that it leads us into No Way Home. Such good stuff. But after that is when is Phase 4, where we start getting into the TV. Now, I'm actually going to have to open up a new tab because I don't remember. I didn't put these guys in the tier list. But actually here, you know what? I'm going to edit this tier list real quick and add WandaVision. And add Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We're going to add Loki. We're going to add What If I can find it. There's a lot of stuff called What If. So we're going to need Marvels. Or not. I think we're going to have to dot question mark. Is it not on here? It may not be on. I'll add it later. I'll look it up in a second. But Hawkeye. Pretty sure I reviewed it on Letterboxd. J.K. Simmons gets to keep playing J. Jonah Jameson. Save that for right now, and then go find What If. We want we want Marvel's What If. Oh, it's not on Letterboxd. Okay. So go back to my list. Go to the tier list and edit. We're gonna put the other ones besides Marvel's What If in place. Okay. Falcon. Okay, so WandaVision. Come on. Okay. WandaVision is gonna go right in front of Far From Home. I enjoyed WandaVision about in that same area. There's a lot of really good stuff, especially when they're playing around with the different sitcom eras, and as they dig further and further into Wanda's psyche. I think they really nail. I think Elizabeth Olsen got to have a lot of fun. Exactly, it was a big pandemic mood show. Sorry, I'm messing around with this list. Yeah, it's so good, and the between the psychological evaluation for Wanda, as well as building onto the universe with characters like Photon and White Vision got introduced, which I didn't expect happening. I didn't expect there to be White Vision. Like, there's something you barely knew, unless you're a deep cut comics fan. Hey, White Vision's here. Remember White Vision from the 90s? Aye. But yeah, WandaVision is really good, and I think it really hit out of the park that the Marvel Studios could handle television on top of film. Now, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I really enjoyed for the most part, until it got about to the end. And so for that, we're putting it right in front of Iron Man. I love... Yeah, Agatha as a supervillain worked great, and I'm really interested to see how they utilize her, because... Oh, man, I'm so... Oh, that sucks. I don't even know if it's out on video over here yet. But, yeah, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, great start. Love Sam and Bucky's repartee. I love them working together. Bit of a... Yeah, Flag Smashers were not utilized that well. That was like I was mentioning with Black Panther, where they were right. The Flag Smashers were right. Why is stupid a auto mod? Huh. Weird. Stupid was picked up by the auto mod. Now, of course, yeah. What was I saying? I guess they really wanted to dig down into words that could be used to harass and bully people in chat. Yeah, if they're not careful. What was I saying? Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Bucky and Sam work great together. Oh yeah, I knew that. I had to look that up, but I heard about that back when they were trying to just find somebody to fight Captain America. Who the hell do we... Look, we killed the Nazis. We're the Cold War's over. What the hell do we make Cap fight? So he fights an anarchist. But, the Flag Smasher Anarchist Collective, they were right. They were absolutely right. And the only reason they're the villain is because they're going against the system. And Captain America, at least in this iteration, is trying to uphold that system and reform it from within. That's the goal, ultimately. Kind of, also, they just turn out to be like big shoot-'em-up bang-bangs by the end, and it's just not as fun. Yes. Well, he may be Patriot's dad in the comics, but he's, a Patriot? Or no, I'm thinking of, who am I thinking of? Who was not Caps? Who was the douchey Cap's sidekick called? What was he called? U.S. Soldier's sidekick. I forget, what they called him. They changed it from the comics because the comics had a really bad nickname for him. I thought his name was Patriot, but I forget what his sidekick was called. But anyway, yeah, utilizing U.S. Soldier as like the actual, this is what actually happened. This is what we are in the U.S. This is the kind of mentality we have. But yeah, once again, introducing things like the Tuskegee experiment into the MCU, keeping a man out of history. They wouldn't let a black man be Captain America. Well, guess what? Fuck you, black man is Captain America now. And yeah, Carl Lumbly, the actor who played Isaiah Bradley, it was actually the voice of Martian Manhunter in the Justice League cartoon. It was nice seeing him in person, and he's great as Isaiah Bradley. I loved him in the show. And I loved how we would call out and keep Sam in sort of like, he's not going to let Sam be too high on himself. He's going to bring him, keep him down to earth. But yeah, I also like the fact that, like, even though the Falcon is an Avenger, even though he's worked with Captain America and helped save the goddamn world on more than one occasion, dude can't get a decent line of credit after the snap. Yeah, I wonder why he can't get a good line of credit. I bet if, Bruce Banner came in, he'd have a great line of credit, and that guy smashes stuff. Anyway, Falcon and Winter Soldier, really good. U.S. Agents, I love that we have Julia Louis-Dreyfus in the MCU, and I'm so curious to see what they're going to do with her. I have no idea what they're going to do, and I'm all hyped to see what they do. Next up is Loki, and Loki goes right there next to Ragnarok. Loki is really good. Loki is by far the best of the Marvel shows. It is the first one where they didn't slip up on the ending. The ending killed it, and look, this version of Loki got to get more character development than he ever did in the movies. And he got to be from where he was in Avengers to where he was at the beginning of Infinity War by the end, and probably become an even better character by that point. And I'm very curious to see what all they do with Loki in Season 2. Especially now that they've essentially established that now the Time Variance Authority is headed by Kang the Conqueror. Next up after that was the next movie, Shang-Chi, which I believe I thought Black Widow came out before Shang-Chi. I'm pretty sure Black Widow came out in May, Shang-Chi came out in like September. Weird. Anyway, Black Widow, there's a 3-star. That's a 3-star movie. Black Widow is what I like to call the absolute middle of the road for the MCU. It's never the worst, but it's never all that great. It is straight down the middle. Yep. This certainly exists. So, yeah. Battlestar. That was U.S. Agent's sidekick. But yeah, Black Widow, interesting idea. I like, what was he called? God, why can't I remember? What was David Harbour's character called? Natasha's dad. Something Red. Red something. Damn it, I can't remember. But I love Florence Pugh. Red Guardian. Love him as Red Guardian, though I feel like, once again, he kind of gets the Meg Griffin treatment, and he never quite to really shine as a character, which sucks because it's David Harbour, and he's fantastic. I love Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova. I did not expect him to make her and Natasha sisters in a found family sort of sense, but adopted sisters, essentially. But yeah, I really like Florence Pugh. I love her as Black Widow now. I'm so glad that she's going to be part of the universe. But yeah, the movie itself, the villain's boring. It's Ray Winstone, and you made Ray Winstone boring. How did you manage to do that? Ooh, that would be something. Wait. Remember, Isaiah Bradley was Captain America back in the 50s. Red Guardian could have been fighting Captain America, thinking it's Steve Rogers, but it's actually Isaiah Bradley. And so it's like, wait, what do you mean Captain America? Of course, Captain America is black. Only in America can they would they make a black man Captain America. I don't know, something along those lines. So, he probably fought Isaiah Bradley though, but yeah, Red Guardian. Yeah, I love him for the most part, but he really does get the Meg Griffin treatment in this movie, and it sucks. And the movie itself overall is boring, mainly because Scarlett Johansson is not that great of an actress. It depends on the material she's given. Here is Black Widow, she never got that great of material. It's not like she tried either. God damn it, at least David Harbour and Florence Pugh tried. Even Rachel Weisz is doing the Russian accent. And Ray Winstone's a terrible one. Taskmaster, I like the twist they went with it. It's not quite what they were in what Taskmaster is in the comics. Hopefully they can do more with Taskmaster with better writers and also better fight choreographers. But that's future MCU stuff. After Black Widow came out, and then it was Loki, and then after Black Widow came Marvel's What If. Now, I'm doing this one on the fly. I'm not sure where I would rank this one. Yeah, Taskmaster is not the best handled, ultimately. But, Marvel's What If? Let me think. Okay, let me go through the process. It's definitely probably an A tier. But where in A tier? Would I sooner want to watch Marvel's What If? It's lower than here. Lower than Doctor Strange. I think I would sooner watch What If than the first Captain Marvel. So we'll put it right there. What If is good, but it's a bit of a mess. Especially when they tried to make every episode tie into each other. And Uatu had to make his own Avengers. That was weird. But I like T'Challa Star-Lord. I like Party Thor. I like Dude Bro Thor. Yeah, the Marvel Zombies, that wasn't great. That wasn't exactly... Yeah, I mean, the episode played out for the most part like a zombie movie. The Avengers. But, what was I saying? Jeffrey Wright as Uatu is great. He's the perfect voice for it. What else was I saying? What else was I going to say? Captain Carter. Fantastic. I love that. I hope we see more stories. I hope we see, like, one story a season with What If that's just Captain Carter and the further adventures of her and Hydra Smasher. I liked... I'm very curious to see, because they did it looked like they were teasing the Doctor Strange from What If in Multiverse of Madness. But I don't know if they said one way or the other. But, yeah, What If... The animation style is a bit unnerving, but I got used to it. The writing can be hit or miss. I'm very curious to see what they do with Season 2. Follow that up with Now we get to Shang-Chi. And Shang-Chi, I put that right between Captain America and Black Panther. Shang-Chi is really good. Shang-Chi does a lot of what Black Panther did for African culture, but for Chinese culture. Namely, a lot of Chinese American culture. They covered a lot of, there's a lot of, theming of family and of, trying to get away from abusive families and, accepting who you are and your history. I love the fight scenes. I love the fight choreography. It felt more like it's never quite an exact one-to-one for wuxia or for Hong Kong's action, but it felt like the closest Hollywood has ever gotten. We got weird things like Abomination showing up again, fighting Wong for some reason. We got what's his name back? Fake Mandarin from Iron Man 3, where apparently the actual Mandarin has been holding him captive and hasn't killed him yet for some reason. I think they said the reason was because he was, like, putting on performances. He was essentially like a shitty court jester for Tony Leung's Mandarin. I forget what his actual name is. What his character name is. He has an actual character name that he goes by, not Mandarin. And I completely forget what it is. But yeah, I like the themes they were going for. Biggest problem is that once again, the ending kind of goes into that shooty bang bang, look everybody explosion jingle keys, and it kind of loses track, and it sucks a bit. It sucks that the ending kind of faltered, and that the whole thing with Tony Leung's character, Shu Wenwu, that's his name. But yeah, the whole thing with Wenwu, he's such a great villain. He is Loki levels right up until the end, and they rush through his redemption arc right at the last second, and it kind of sucks. But Wenwu as a character overall is such a well-written villain, and Tony Leung absolutely is the presence to watch when he's on screen. Shang-Chi is very good. I would absolutely I need to rewatch Shang-Chi again. It's one of the only ones I didn't rewatch for the retrospective. I kind of stopped at Phase 4 during the rewatch. But no, I ended with Black Widow, not Shang-Chi, because I think Shang-Chi had just come out on Disney Plus by that point. Anyway, next up, we got Eternals. And Eternals is a bit of a mess, but then it's not as much of a mess as the comics they're based on. I actually liked Eternals. I liked Eternals a lot. Uh-oh. Is the volume too low? Volume may be too low on my end. How's that? Is that any better? It sounds like it looks like they're being picked up on the output. Maybe if I put them up on the output a bit more. Let me know if you can hear them or not. But yeah, Eternals, I liked, even though it's an absolute hot mess. I like Zhao's directing style. I like the cinematography in this. Perfect. Nailed it. I like Chloe Zhao's direction in this. The writing is, oh boy, the writing. I mean, for one thing, the Eternals is the Chariot of the Gods from, because Kirby was deep into that conspiracy theory back in the day. At the same time he was doing the New Gods over at DC, he was deep into the Chariot of the Gods nonsense by that point. I think he was into it for creative reasons, not because he thought aliens were actually creating, although I don't think he said one way or the other. In any case, I actually liked Jim... Oh, that's another one. Gemma Chan, who plays... I've forgotten her character's name. Cersei. Gemma Chan, who plays Cersei, was one of the aliens in Jude Law's... One of the alien villains that was part of Jude Law's crew in Captain Marvel. So she's another... Oh, also, I forgot Michelle Yeoh. Michelle Yeoh was in Shang-Chi. And she's great in it, because it's Michelle Yeoh. She is never not great. Yeah, Gemma Chan does great in Eternals, I think. I like Kumail Nanjiani as... I forget his name again. But yeah, I like him. I like the fact that they made that character into a Bollywood actor who keeps hiding his identity by resurfacing as the quote-unquote son of his previous incarnation. I think Kumail Nanjiani's a whole lot of fun, especially his attendant, his gopher, his assistant there, his valet. I think is the term they use in the movie, but he's great. I like Jon Snow. I like that guy as Gemma Chan's love interest. More because I'm interested to see where they go with him after that end credit scene, after they fully introduce who he is as a character. Specifically that he's the Black Knight. I'm very curious to see how that plays into the future of the MCU. But the introduction of the Celestials, the whole idea of a Celestial being birthed from the Earth, I think the problem is Eternals came a bit too late. Eternals probably should have been in Phase 2. Or the beginning of Phase 3. Trying to explain the Eternals after Thanos is trying to make it fit in a time, try to make it fit when it's not really gonna fit. You're trying to pack things all together. Nope, see, it's gonna fit. I can totally make it fit. And it doesn't quite fit, sadly. That said, now that they've just got it established and out of the way, I'm very interested to see what they do in the next one. Assuming there will be a next one, and that COVID didn't kill this movie's box office so badly that they're never going to touch it again. But yeah, after Eternals, we've got Hawkeye, and Hawkeye I actually put right at the tail end before A&A+, right between Iron Man and Doctor Strange. Hawkeye was fun. Hawkeye was a good show. I like Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop. Her and Jeremy Renner played off really well against each other. Her and Florence Pugh had great chemistry. I liked that friendship that they're building, and I like that they're going to keep the legacy Hawkeye and Black Widow as essentially friends with the new Avengers version, so to speak. I'm assuming the Matt Fraction run is actually even better. I haven't been able to finish. I don't think I read it, but I've heard so many good things about it, and I think it captures a lot of that run. But I feel like the actual run is probably even better. That said, it was still good. I liked Hawkeye. I liked it. It's a lot of fun as a series. And also we finally confirmed that the Netflix Daredevil Defenders universe is canon in the official MCU timeline. Now the issue is, when are they going to bring back Jessica Jones? When are they going to bring back Luke Cage? You can keep Iron Fist. We don't need him. When are you going to bring back Punisher? I'm assuming they're all coming. And John Barenthal has said that he refuses to return as Frank Castle if Disney pulls back on his character any less than what Netflix let him do. If he can't do what he did on Netflix with Disney, he's out. So we'll either see a brand new Punisher without John Barenthal, which will be disappointing, or we will see a John Barenthal. If we see John Barenthal back as the Punisher in the official MCU, we know we're gonna be able to expect some shit, because it's gonna be wild. And then the last and most recent one on the list, Spider-Man: No Way Home. Highest in the A tier. No Way Home is another one of those akin to Avengers that you would never expect to be able to happen in the MCU, in cinema, to allow for essentially the entire the plot point, the major points of the entire cinematic history of Spider-Man to be in a single film. No worries. I'm trying not to. I'm gonna try not to spoil. Let you see that in text. When I'm done. All right. But yeah, I love Tom Holland, and I love what all they do with Doc Ock, with Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe, and why am I blanking on his name? Why am I blanking on his name? Alfred Molina. It was in there somewhere. Alfred Molina is Doc Ock, and Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. They just absolutely, they steal every scene they're in. And Tom Holland's great, and the storyline is basically one more day, but done competently. And it works much better. It's not great. There's a bunch of issues with it. I think for the biggest thing, there's a lot of humor in this movie. This leads very into the comedy. And I think the comedy undercuts its real serious moments. And I think that sucks. And, there's a lot of easy fixes. Like, Sandman wasn't always literally just a walking statue of sand. Where was Thomas Hayden Church? Why couldn't he show up in person until the very end? Why did Happy Hogan have a literal 3D printer from Stark Industries in his apartment? Or his condo, technically. But, yeah, there's some minor, these are all, like, literally minor issues. The overarching thing, the love letter to Spider-Man that it was, especially since it was right on the heels of the 20th anniversary of Spider-Man on the big screen, it really was just a delight. And I'm very curious to see what they do in the aftermath of this. I mean, they kind of, sorry. I clipped my nails recently, and they've been bothering me a bit during the stream. But, yeah, I'm very curious to see what all happens after this movie, because there's a lot of stuff going on with Spider-Man. But for the tail end of a trilogy, I'll give it this. All three Spider-Mans up to this point are in the A tier. They've done really well with him in the MCU, I think. And I'm hopeful that the MCU going forward is going to be is going to stay good. So much of this franchise is at least 4 stars for me, if not 4.5. Very little goes below that. So if they can just keep within this range, we'll be fine. But that's my list. That is the tier list for the MCU. Basically, all you need to know is Infinity War is my favorite, Iron Man 3 is my least, and most of the movies are within 4 to 4.5 stars. Basically, all you need to know is that I'm a big freaking nerd for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm sure Snyder fanboys would call me a shill. I wish I was a shill. I would actually get paid. But yeah, I'm glad I finally got that list taken care of. I'll probably share it on Twitter later today. And hey, I forgot to mention, this is my first stream as affiliate. I'm an affiliate now, which means people can earn channel points, people can spend bits, people can subscribe and get emotes. I'm an official affiliate Twitch streamer. I can do what all the other Twitch streamers I follow can do, and it feels good. First goal of the year, met. But yeah, what are we looking at next? I think the only big thing coming out in theaters next week was some romance movie. I want to try and see Belle. Belle is playing at some bigger theaters near me. Oh my god, okay, so Guy Ritchie's new movie is coming out. That's good. Operation Fortune, Ruse de Guerre. This weirdo like Hollywood star has to help actual spies kind of movie. There is a romance movie called Redeeming Love. And supposedly there's going to be The King's Daughter. I don't know how wide that's playing, but that's with Pierce Brosnan, William Hurt, and it's about King Louis XIV's King Louis XIV stealing a mermaid by Sean McNamara, who I swear I've heard that name before. He was a producer on Oh, that's right. Sean McNamara directed that stupid what's it called? He did oh my god, Sean McNamara directed the third Cats and Dogs movie. Because there was a third, that's right, there was a third one. Aliens Ate My Homework. Baby Geniuses in the... How is this guy directing, like, a period drama? I think. Period drama? Maybe romance? How the hell... This I have some bad feelings about The King's Daughter, if that's the case. Oh boy. I'm gonna have to watch the trailer. It's up on IMDb. Well then. I think that's where we'll end it for tonight. I'm gonna go and get some dinner. Tomorrow, we're gonna return to Undertale, and I'm gonna keep trying to stick to my schedule for the rest of the week. Ignore the times. If you scroll down, you can see my schedule. Ignore the times. I should add in the description to ignore the times on the schedule, that they're not at that time, it's just that day. But Twitch won't let me put it on a day, it will just only let me put it at a specific time. So, I'll put that in later, but tomorrow is Undertale. Tonight, is just surviving the cold, because we got buried under a foot of snow. I mean, I didn't get buried under a foot of snow. I'm in the virtual world in a library, and I'm just an image. Woo! This is why I don't bother with lore and playing a character. It's too much of a pain. Anyway, good night, everybody.